So one other question, Debbie? Do you mind?
Sure. No, go right ahead, sir.
Let me hang up. I'm gonna check on live stream on my phone and I'll play back.
All right, thanks.
I think they're just trying to get all the little bugs and all the little setup taken care of.
Okay. So
What's your
for
question, sir?
voting on the amendment, 4 votes to pass, but on the agreement, it's going to be a majority of whoever's in attendance on the commission, right?
Right.
Because not a zoning or comprehensive plan change.
Right. That's correct.
So that's just a majority vote.
Hello, Howard.
Because they're not, the only time it becomes a supermajority is when they're doing a map change or increasing density. And other certain things require the supermajority, and this isn't one of them.
Hi, it's Marlene. Can I have Gertie, please?
I'm going to go back into the text of the.
Okay, merci. Received no public comments.
Yeah, we just need 4 affirmative votes, Gary.
For the amendment,
Mm-hmm.
right? And for the other, it's not really a land use item.
No, it would just be a majority.
I mean, it is land use related, but it's not a zoning or comprehensive plan item, right?
Correct. It isn't.
Your camera's not enabled, Ricardo. No, I just see the option to do your mic. It just says RC on yours.
The language,
Okay.
Gary, in
I'll look
section
into
2-203B,
Thanks.
under quorum and required vote for planning commission, says the 7 members of the planning commission shall transact the business of the commission with 5 members constituting a quorum. 4 affirmative votes shall be required for a positive recommendation of any proposed zoning or comprehensive plan change. A positive recommendation for any other matter coming before the commission shall require a majority vote of the members present. Well, so we need 4 for the text amendment and just the majority for the resolution.
Marlene, is IT doing something?
IT is set. They're just waiting on us. And by the way, live stream is running. There's nothing.
Howard, do you hear us okay?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
No, Howard, I see him up online.
Okay. So, does Ricardo know that we're gonna have to have him check out the, you can hear me, but you can't see me. That's fine with me. Nobody needs to see my face anyway.
Talk a little louder.
Okay, is that sounding, can you hear me okay from through there?
I see you halfway, not fully, so maybe you should.
Attendees, actively participating.
Hi, Jen, we can see you.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn that screen just a little bit toward me, just a tad, tiny, teeny tiny little bit. So I can actually see toward you, back toward you. Is it gonna shift that? Sort of that way so I can actually see to be able to tell you, to change the slide, I guess. There you go, something like that, so I can at least see, when the slide pops up. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
So who do we have attending so far?
Was in the room now, you mean?
Please.
Tom Tonkin, Jennifer Warren, James of Get Smart Kids Academy,
Somebody.
Gary, Charlie, and Ricardo.
Okay, so we're waiting, we need
Three.
three more, yeah.
I spoke to Mike, I spoke with, and I spoke with,
Howard, do you hear us okay? Check, because I see the phone symbol on your name. Do you need to dial in or do you have your audio hooked up? Shake your head if you can hear us.
Did they hear that?
I'm not getting a response from Mr. Tonkin.
Can you unmute them, Marlene?
No, he's down in front phone, so he's gonna have to do stuff.
Oh, okay. Ready. I kind of like this. It's getting easier and more streamlined each time. Sure does help reduce the carbon footprint when you don't have a bunch of people traveling.
Stuff on silent.
Mhm. Me too.
Howard, do you hear us yet? Mr. Tonkin, do you hear us? Wave if you can hear me. Hello, Melvin, you hear me okay?
Hi, Jen, wait, let me turn off my.
Mr. Goodwin, you can hear me? Okay, we don't hear you.
I don't hear you.
We better go on mute.
Yeah,
Oh,
we see your microphone activated, but we don't hear you.
President Rice is on
Hmm?
there. President Rice is on there.
Okay. Yeah, it's 5 till. All right.
Hey, figure out this volume thing, can you hear me?
Hi, Howard, do you hear us now?
You hear somebody, if you all can hear me, that means I figured out the volume.
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Awesome, so I figured it out.
No, it sounds a little hot. Is there any way you can turn down your speaker, or your audio is coming in very hot?
Mine is, okay.
Yeah,
How's that? Is that better?
yeah, much better. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Goodwin, can you check your settings to see if you have your microphone all the way up on your settings?
I'd say the opposite because I can't hear.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi, this
Michael,
is
we can
Ruth.
hear you.
This is
Okay, hi, everybody.
Hi,
Hi.
Ms. Ruby, we hear you fine, thank you.
Okay, great.
Michael, we
Hey,
hear
Chris,
you.
how are you? Good afternoon, Gary and Jennifer.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Bob, we see you.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
Good. Good. How are you?
Good.
Hello, Jennifer.
Excuse me.
We can advise the chair that we have.
Michael, we haven't seen you yet, but we do hear you.
Hi, everyone.
Now we see you. Hello.
Mr. Chair, we do have quorum so far.
Yes, I'm trying to see if we can get Mr. Melton's audio problem straightened out here.
Great, we have a couple minutes.
All right, thank you.
Hello, Michael.
Hi there.
Jennifer, is that you in the portrait?
Yes, that's actually my wedding portrait.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes, still waiting for Mr. Melton to.
right, so, before we actually go into item number 5, public hearings, I would go ahead and read the same announcement that I had at the last meeting,
Okay, sir, thank you.
slightly modified. but Okay.
All right. Dr. Rice, welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. It's good to see everyone.
Hello,
Everyone
Dr.
is walking well.
How about James, just for you participants?
You can start as soon as the chair is ready.
Okay, Chair, whenever you're ready. Everybody's here, looks like.
Yeah, we just lost Mr. Melton. I see he's logging back in again.
Mhm.
Hello,
He's
Mr.
here.
Melton, do you hear us? Okay, we don't hear you yet.
You want to try dialing in instead?
I see you have some IT assistance there.
Your mountain's on.
Give it a few more seconds.
I think he's on. One.
And let's see if this works. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
All right, great. Okay, so
Sorry about that.
that's quite all right, sir. Glad we got it straightened out. All right, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and start our North Miami Planning Commission meeting for June 2nd, 2020. At this time, everybody can hear. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the meeting, and let's start with a roll call of the board members, please. Madam Secretary, if you could, please.
Commissioner Ernst,
Present.
Commissioner Howard Tonkin,
Present.
Commissioner Jason James. Excuse. Commissioner Bob Fashan,
Present?
Commissioner Michael McDermott,
Present.
Commissioner Melton Goodwin,
Present.
Commissioner Bernadette Pierre,
We are missing her.
we have quorum.
All right. We'll hope that Ms. Pierre can join us, but we do have quorum, so we're going to go ahead and proceed forward with the meeting. At this time, I want to ask staff if we have any amendments to the agenda.
No, we do not, sir.
Thank you. And I'll ask for a motion for approval of the meetings of May 5th, 2020.
So move.
Mr. McDermott has moved to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Seconded by Mr. Goodwin. Very good. Thank you very much. Staff, do you have any new communications to give us?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. Continue public hearings. We have none. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and move into the public hearing portion of the meeting. I want to ask Mr. Held if he would like to address any issues with regards to quasi-judicial proceedings. Are there any related to this these items today?
Right. I just want to go through the procedures to be followed for the conducting of the public hearing. Neither of the items that are before the Planning Commission on this agenda are quasi-judicial. But still, we have a hearing process to go through, so I'll go ahead and read that notice. The North Miami City Council has adopted by resolution virtual meeting procedures for the conduct of public hearings during the coronavirus pandemic and other public emergencies. They provide, and as stated in the public notice for this meeting, quote, members of the public are invited to attend the virtual public hearing and provide oral or written comments on the matter. Comments, which must include your full name and address, may be provided in advance of the hearing via telephone or by sending an email to publiccomment@northmiamifl.gov. These comments were supposed to have been received by 10 a.m. this morning, and any received will be read into the record during the hearing. Comments received after the deadline will become part of the record but will not be read during the hearing. Since neither of the items are quasi-judicial, we will proceed under virtual public hearing procedures, meaning that persons raising their hands within 1 minute following the announcement of the opening of the public hearing will be called upon by the meeting chair. Each person will be sworn and be given 2 minutes to state their name and address and make the comments. Cross-examination is allowed by staff, the applicant, and the board or commission. Public hearing will then be closed, and the board or commission will then deliberate the matter and reach a decision, which may include approval with conditions, denial, or continuance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Held. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start addressing the 2 items we have on today's agenda. The first item, if I may, is PC 04-20, is a resolution of the mayor and the city council, the city of North Miami. Do I hear someone? All right, I'll continue. Again, I'll start. A resolution of the mayor, city council of the city of North Miami, Florida, approving the execution of the campus development agreement and substantially the attached form between the city of North Miami and the Johnson & Wales University in accordance with section 1013.30 Florida statutes, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. May we have staff report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Marlon, would you pull up my PowerPoint, please? And turn it just to the side a little bit. Okay. First slide, next slide, please. Thank you. The request before you is for you to make recommendation just a little bit, of approval for the execution of the campus development agreement. As you all know, the campus master plan came before you all last year in May, your May 7th hearing, and went before City Council on October 22nd. Of last year, where it was subsequently then adopted actually by the university itself. Florida statute specifically lays out the campus master plan requirements as well as the process. And subsequent to the adoption of the master plan, the universities have approximately 9 months to submit a development agreement that seeks to have some assurances for the communities in which they are located. In the case, it's all driven by Florida statute, what has to be in it and how it is laid out. It specifically is to assure that any offsite improvements that may impact the city's infrastructure is identified, as well as a financial mechanism for paying for those improvements. In this case, since, as you all remember, in the master plan, they were actually reducing their student body, so there's less impacts for infrastructure. So we don't foresee at this point any capital projects during this next 5-year period that would require upgrades. And so in the development agreement, you'll note that there are no planned capital improvements, unlike the last one where it did a lot of street improvements, street closures. So in this case, there are really no capital improvements, offsite capital improvements planned. Would you go ahead and change it? So the next step after this is it'll go before City Council on the 23rd. And once it is fully executed, because your recommendation, we're asking you to recommend approval for City Council to ultimately approve the execution of the document. Once it's fully executed by the city and by the university, within 14 days, it has to be submitted to the state. With that, that's the end of my presentation. We do have Dr. Rice and Ruth Ruby with the Johnson & Wales University here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Debbie. As a part of the public forum, we're going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. Dr. Rice, I understand that you're just here to answer any questions. Do you wish to make any statements at this time, or?
Not at this time. I am here to answer any questions, but I would like to thank the staff. The staff has been amazing throughout the process of helping, guiding us along the way and making sure that we were able to get everything in a timely fashion. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and open up the public hearing portion of this. As Mr. Held read prior to right after our meeting started, we do have an ability to answer questions through either telephone questions, if someone wants to phone in any questions, or through the chat page that we have, which I can see and call up. If anyone is using that, we will be glad to monitor that at this point, see if there's any questions coming in. So now that the public hearing is open, I'm going to give it about a minute before we start getting any, to at least monitor to see if we get any questions coming in on the chat line. Also, the staff, you've indicated that we do not have any prior questions that was presented by the public. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you, ma'am. So now we're in that window where we're waiting to see if we have any comments coming in from the public, either by phone or through our chat page. So let's give it a few more seconds, or at least another 30 or 40 seconds before we close the public hearing portion. And of course,
May I suggest that everyone mute their phone unless they're actually going to speak? Thank you.
Okay, I see no chats coming in and we haven't gotten any phone calls. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing section. So the public hearing portion of the item is now closed. At this point, let's go ahead and open up questions from our members of our planning commission. We'll start with Mr. Tonkin, since I see you up in my corner first. So, sir, if you have any questions regarding this item. Okay, I don't hear you, but I do see you, and I believe you said no.
None in particular, no. I'm curious as to the use of the green space, but I don't think that's relevant here, and I don't have any questions.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pashon? Mr. Pashon? Any?
Okay, I just unmute. So we've done the master plan, right? And this is just an update.
Yes.
See if there are any changes in the last night.
Yeah, it's not an update. If my understanding is it's just if they had any amendments that staff had to look at. Is that correct, Debbie? If you can explain that once again.
Okay, so no worries. For consideration, this is the second step in the master plan process. The first step is the approval of the master plan. The next step, and it's required by Florida statute, is the development agreement that would implement the master plan. In this case, it's an agreement between the city and the university on various issues of whether, make sure you pay your utility bills, if there were capital projects that would have impacted the infrastructure that came out of the master plan. The development agreement would identify those and identify the funding sources. So this is part 2 of the adoption of the campus master plan.
Okay. On a separate note, I'd like to ask Dr. Rice one question. Is this pandemic seems to be having lots of effects on lots of universities. What's your outlook?
Certainly, it has had an unexpected impact across the nation. All of higher ed is turned upside down, and we're all trying to figure it out. Our campus certainly has been also affected. The university system has been affected. I would say just if we were only speaking to what the university has been able to do in order to make sure our students were made whole, those students that were unable to stay in housing for the spring term, that cost the university around $34 million just for the housing component of being able to refund those students back. The CARE Act has provided some assistance, but it really does pale in comparison to the unexpected toll that is taken on all of us financially. So we are prepared to host our students back in the fall. The campus has been undergoing significant enhancements in terms of safety and sanitation. Our faculty are ready and geared up. We expect that even this summer in July that we will be able to make our culinary students whole. As you know, that's the only population in our portfolio that was negatively affected by their classroom disruption. So we were able to take all of our academic classes on virtually, so they had a seamless experience. However, for those students who are hands-on in culinary labs, they had to pause their experience for the spring term, and we're looking to catch them up, and it's our expectation that we'll be able to do so in late July. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. Students have already communicated that they're excited, they want to come back, and the staff are ready to host them as well. Thank you for your question. It was a very good question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rice. Mike, do you have a question? And go ahead.
No, I don't have any questions, and I think you know, being that this is just the update that it is, that when the time's appropriate, I'd like to move for approval of the item.
Okay, Mr. Milton, do you have any comment? Oh, your mic's off.
Okay.
Oh.
Sorry about that. The only question I had was reading through it. Yeah, just like a continuation but I did note, and I did have someone actually question me about the traffic study that was used because it was so dated. And I just wanted to confirm with Debbie, with staff, that that's all still congruent with the master plan, being that there are other developments outside of the university itself that may impact the traffic. So.
Well, when you think, when the traffic analysis was done, the idea was they were looking at all of these street changes during that traffic analysis. And because they are actually reducing traffic and because they're reducing the amount of student activity, we believe that the traffic analysis is actually over and above what it would normally happen anyway.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. Goodwin. You heard that reply. You're fine. Any other comments, sir? Say again, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Goodwin.
Okay, Braden. You need to log off. You're second up the cam speed, and I have no.
All right, thank you,
Wi-Fi.
sir. Thank you. Mr. McDermott, go ahead, and sir, I believe you want to go ahead and entertain a motion.
I'm getting a very bad connection, so I actually.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the item.
Mr. McDermott has made a motion to approve the item. I need a second.
I'll second it.
All right, Mr. Tonkin has seconded. All in favor, let's go ahead and get a roll call vote, just like we did the last time, so that we can make it more of a clarification, since we probably would have difficulty recording a voice vote. So, I'll start with Mr. McDermott.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Goodwin.
Yes.
Mr. Pashon.
Yes.
And who have I left out here? Myself, I vote yes. And who did I miss? Mr. Goodwin?
Okay.
No, I said yes.
Oh, Mr. Tompkins. Okay, Mr. Tompkins.
Yes.
And you vote yes. Okay, so it is unanimous. The resolution is passed 5-0. And we thank everyone for hanging in there on this first item. Mr. Rice, thank you for joining us today. And Ms. Ruby.
Thank you, Dr. Rice. Good luck.
Montreal.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. And everyone, please stay safe.
Thank you, Dr. Rice.
Thank you, sir.
You too.
All right, our next item up we have is PC 05-20. This is an ordinance of the mayor and the city council of the city of North Miami providing for a text amendment to chapter 29 of the city of North Miami Code of Ordinances by amending Article 7 entitled Definitions and Article 5, Division 19 entitled Temporary Uses to modify general limitations for temporary uses and structures and establish the criteria for specific temporary uses and structures, providing for repeal, conflict severability, correction of scrivener's errors, codification, and for an effective date. May we have staff report, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you. What you have before you is an amendment that is a reflection of the responses to this disaster that we have been currently in with the COVID-19 pandemic. As the title said, it's modifying Article 7 with a couple of new definitions, as well as Section 5 and I'm so sorry, in Division 19 in the temporary use section. And the temporary uses are governed through a temporary use permit. So in order to do any of these temporary uses that are in this section, it's under a temporary use permit that is issued through the zoning department and approved by the city manager. And in response to, during this pandemic, we have had a number of requests for some very unusual but necessary uses. For example, we've had medical testing facilities. We had a request for housing homeless during this pandemic to get them into a place where they could be safe and have some emergency housing for them as well. We've seen things like we want to use I'm so sorry. Yes, sir. So we want to use part of our parking lot to particularly set up curbside pickup. And in Deezerland, they started a drive-in in response to the coronavirus for safety purposes for recreation. Many of these uses, our code does not allow for them. It just doesn't cover it. There's not enough flexibility. So we really wanted to, twofold goal for this is both security and clarity, and to be a responsible partner with our community in addressing issues and uses and needs that arise that are directly related to a declared disaster. This is, so let's take a look at some of these topics. As you can see, we've created 2 new definitions, one for temporary housing and one for medical facilities and clinics. So if you would like to take a look closer, we'll just into the next steps. We're going to go to City Council on 6/23 for the first reading, and then 7/14 for the second reading, and then it becomes effective 10 days after that. And we really are wanting to be able to help our community and be more flexible and more agile and help our businesses become more agile. And that's the purpose of these amendments. And that's the end of staff's presentation, sir.
Carly, you're muted.
My apologies. Yesterday I had a discussion with staff, and Debbie, one of the questions I had, or one of the discussions, involved some additional language in section 5 of 1907 and section 5 of 1908. Can we get clarification on that?
Yes,
That's
sir.
what we discussed.
One of the recommendations that we had as, after we had submitted this and got a little bit close as a clarification, if you will take a look at section 5-1907, number 3, we are recommending that we add all temporary, the word temporary between structures on 5-1907, number 3. And on 5-1908, number 4, we would like to add the word temporary between the and structures, so that it clarifies that if you are using your facility and you're doing a temporary use in your facility, and that facility has been there for years, we're not anticipating you to have to remove your structures. It's only any temporary structures that are arise out of that temporary use. So we just wanted to add that word temporary just to add a little additional clarity.
Okay, thank you very much. But everybody, has everybody looked at that section she's referring to, and have you pulled it up, or are you familiar with what we're discussing? Everyone?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, and you do see where we've added the language. So after a public hearing and we get further comments, we'll determine how we want to make that clarified when we move it forward, should it come to that. So any additional questions real quick to staff before I open up the public hearing? All right, seeing that, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. The public hearing for item PC 0520 is now open. We will allow a minute or so to receive comments. I'll ask staff if they've received any new phone calls or inquiries addressing this item. And I'm
Nothing
checking
was
off.
received prior to the meeting.
All right, and I'll give it another 45 seconds or so to make sure that we are not getting any comments in the chat page. So please stand by for that. Okay, I see none coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and officially close the public hearing. The public hearing is now closed, and the item is now open for discussion with the commission. Anyone like to make any comments on this?
It seems very clear, and I actually congratulate the city on all of the work that they've done and how they have been able to pull these temporary resources together. It's been quite amazing to sit back and watch, and so I would just move to approve it.
Okay, so I have a motion for approval from Mr. Goodwin.
And I'll second.
Second. Mr. McDermott seconds. Second at the motion. Once again, we'll do a roll call, a vote real quick. Mr. Goodwin? Mr. Goodwin, do you hear me? I need your vote, sir. I need an oral vote. We're doing a roll call. Yes, I believe you said yes. Thank you. Mr. Tonkin?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. So it is unanimous. Mr. Pachon, I apologize. I didn't see you on the bottom of the screen here, sir. Mr. Pachon?
I vote yes.
Yes. So it's
I vote
the motion carries 5-0. And that will go ahead and move forward. And I might add that that will include the additional language that we discussed in that the 2 words, basically the word temporary added to those lines in sections 5-1907 and sections 5-1908, which would be item number 4 of that section. So that has been moved forward. Is that satisfactory, Debbie? We're good with that?
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Thank you for
okay,
that.
great. All right, good.
Yeah. Mr. Chair?
Yes, yes, sir. Mr. McDermott?
Yeah, I just, kudos and compliments to the staff. That's great work on this particular item.
Thank you, sir. This is definitely, I have to give a lot of credit to, all credit needs to go to our director, Tanya Wilson, as well as our zoning manager, Derek Cook. They were very intent that we needed more flexibility during these times of a declared disaster to be able to respond appropriately to our community. And so it was definitely an act of love, and we really appreciate the support. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, well, a great insight and great work, and our compliments obviously to Derek and Tanya as well as yourself.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. McDermott. And I'll just add that I know this will give us some flexibility and also give us a time frame which will allow us to expedite a lot of this to be done should, let's say, the pandemic gets worse and we need to add more structures or medical facilities will need to do such. And you know, the city will have to go through some regulations with the county and dealing with the fire marshal and everything else. And now that we have a plan set in place, I believe this will help expedite these items to get done in a quick time so that we can be able to serve the community on a timely basis. Thank you again, Debbie, for that work also. All right. Let's go ahead and we have no committee reports pending, I don't believe. Any old business from staff? We have none here from the commission. Any new business staff needs to bring up at this
So
point?
we will be having a July meeting because at this point we do have at least one item for your July agenda.
All right, and I would imagine that's still going to be a virtual meeting, just like this one. And so far, I want to thank everybody for joining in today, and happy to see that we didn't have the difficulties that we had the first meeting. So we're drawing closer to perfection each meeting.
That's right. Thank you all for participating and joining us today. We really do appreciate your work and your heart and your efforts. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, and everyone, please stay safe and secure. I'll go ahead and entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
So move.
And I have Mr. McDermott as a motion for adjournment, seconded by Mr. Poisson, and we are done for today. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, staff.
Thank you, staff. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Earl,
you.
Jennifer, Debbie.